Hello everyone and welcome back for the last week of the Guardians of the Ancient season. My name is Escher and this time I played 100 games of the Legends of Runeterra using the Lissandra Turbo Thralls deck. I had seen it before with some mixed reactions, so I decided to give it my own try, 100 times. This was a new deck with the Guardians of the Ancient expansion, leveraging the new countdown support units to hatch frozen thralls as quickly as possible, then double them up with Taliyah or Promising Future. With a little forethought and maneuvering with the clock hand, it's also very easy to get the Watcher on board and obliterate the enemy's deck all within one turn. While most of your cards focus around thralls, the rest are used for removal, like Ice Shard or Avalanche, and healing, like Blighted Ravine or Kindly Tavern Keeper. There are a few different iterations of this deck, mostly fitting personal taste or tacked around specific matchups, but we'll look at that list a little bit later. The basic strategy is pretty straightforward. Get a frozen thrall down early and hatch it as soon as possible. On average, I got my first thrall on the board by turn 6, but it could be as early as turn 4. If you can get 2 or more down at once, even better. So mulligan hard for a frozen thrall. If you can't get it in your opening hand, also look for stone weaving or ancient preparations to get another chance on turn 2. Be on the lookout for Clockwork Curator or Time in a Bottle for advancing quickly. Draklorn Inquisitor, Taliyah, or Promising Future will provide the final push on turn 5 to either hatch right away or get multiple thralls out. Finally, always keep in mind your opponent. You'll want to think about what the enemy is going for and what removal or healing cards will be useful against them. This deck's weaknesses are aggro and burn. Since it takes a few turns to get everything on board, aggro decks have a chance early in the game to get a lot of units and attack hard. Elusives are also tricky since we don't have much interaction against them. If you see an aggro deck you know will have a lot of small units, try to have an Ice Shard, Avalanche, or Blighted Ravine in hand to take care of them and save your health. If a deck has a lot of burn synergies, it will get you down low enough for Decimate to finish you off. I run one single copy of Rite of Negation in my list, so I always make sure to look for it when I know big damaging spells are coming. However, sometimes you just don't draw what you need and the opponent can get the upper hand quickly. If you've watched my previous videos, you'll know that I've been stuck in Platinum 2 for a few weeks, never quite able to break out of it. Well, this time I'm happy to report that my games ranged from Platinum 2 to Diamond 1 on the North American ranked ladder, even facing off against some Master ranked players. More on the LP climb later, but for now let's take a look at my most frequent matchups. Number 1. No surprise here, Azir Irelia is at the top once again, showing up 15 times. As I mentioned before, these aggro matchups are tough for us. Sometimes I was able to remove their units and regain control of the board, or get thralls out and overwhelm them, but most of the time they were able to pummel me with multiple attacks per turn, buffing units with Voice of the Risen now instead of Inspiring Martial. I still managed to win 4 of these games. Number 2, once again, is Thresh Nasus. This old gem is now a favorable matchup for us, winning 64% of the games. Since we don't play many units early on, it's hard for them to get slays. Meanwhile, a well-timed Avalanche can wipe out their board and stop them from getting slays on their own units. Once you get your thralls on board, they should be the same size, if not bigger, than Nasus. I also kept a Flash Freeze in hand to save myself from atrocity while still allowing their Nasus to die. You want to keep Flash Freeze in your hand until the last possible moment. Number 3. TLC takes over the 3rd spot this week after popularity in the seasonal tournament. While this isn't an exact mirror match, both decks have very similar win conditions. It pretty much comes down to who can get there first, so the advantage is to us. It's helpful to keep Flash Freeze in hand if Trundle gets out of control, or Rite of Negation if they try to wipe the board with Ruination. One game I survived once by using Lissandra's Entomb on the Watcher and attacked for the win 2 turns later. Number 4. Ezreal Draven is back and marks my first 100% favorable matchup. With the smaller units they have, the win comes fairly easily once you get thralls on the board, but until that time it's important to clear as much as you can. Don't be afraid to take some damage if it sets up more value the next turn. Scorched Earth is dangerous if you put a lot of resources into one frozen thrall, so doubling them with Taliyah is helpful in this matchup if you don't have a Rite of Negation in hand. Number 5. Zoe Dragons makes a comeback on this list, solidifying its popularity in the season. It's a tough matchup for us, winning only 1 of the 5 games. The amount of non-combat strikes and combat spells makes it difficult to keep units on the board. Even our thralls can quickly be removed with Concerted Strike. Our 1 Rite of Negation can be useful, but most likely they have more spells in hand. Ice Shard is important to get rid of Zoe early on. You do not want her to level under any circumstances. These 5 decks made up 44% of my 100 games. Overwhelm and Discard Aggro also appeared multiple times to various degrees of success. I saw 3 mirror matches in Diamond 2 alone, so it seems other players are also finding some success climbing with this deck. In one of those mirror matches, I encountered something brand new for my 100 game series, a tie game. Even with the single tie game, I had a spectacular 58% win rate. These aren't the fastest games around, but they are a lot of fun when you're able to get off your ideal combos. If you're tired of aggro, I highly recommend this deck for your last minute climbing. As I alluded to earlier, I started in Platinum 2 where I've been stuck for a while. I hit a great win streak and managed to skyrocket into Diamond, getting as high as Diamond 1. In conclusion, this is a really fun deck to play if you enjoy getting off combos to summon big units earlier than expected. I'm hoping that this deck doesn't see too many nerfs in the next patch, and if it doesn't, you can bet that this will be a popular choice. If you want to try this deck for yourself, here's what I used. You can find the code in my Mobalytics profile, with the rest of the decks featured in my 100 game series. As the new Rise of the Underworld expansion comes out at the end of the month, I'm going to be keeping an eye out for new and creative decks to try, so feel free to comment here or send me a tweet suggesting things you want to see 100 games of. Until next time, thanks again for watching and have fun out there.